Now, I want to talk about universities because yet another example of how a university shuts down anyone who doesn't want to kiss the lefty ring. The Institute of Public Affairs wanted to set up a Generation Liberty stall at a recent event in a university, and guess what happened? No, sorry, you're not allowed to be here. Generation Liberty is their youth project to, God forbid, celebrate freedom. Well, of course, it didn't align with the values of the universities, but have a look at this, right, where the campus representative said of the free market think tank that we still haven't an explanation from the Guild as to how to discuss the personal, political and economic freedoms and how they do not align with the Student Guild's values. Cory, we see this all the time, yet nothing happens. I don't understand how, basically, entirely taxpayer-funded institutions can't be pulled straight back into line by the government who gives them freaking money.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Paul. And interestingly, I read the Generation Liberty coordinators are going to go after the Human Rights Commission, which will be just desserts for the QUT torture they put their previous students through. But, you know, Generation Liberty is such an important program for the IPA because it is convincing young people about the merits of freedom and why bureaucracy and indoctrination and overwhelming government is not in their interests. And, you know, it's pushing back against the lefty zeitgeist, and that's why the universities hate it, but that's why we should all be supporting the IPA and Generation Liberty.
I agree. Become a member, follow them on all of the socials. We'll put up the links on our Facebook page. I mean, Pauline, it's just the basic here. How can lefties be so scared of their ideas that they can't allow anyone who disagrees with them to set up a freaking card table?
But it's not just happening in the universities, it happens on the floor of Parliament, Paul. I put up with it
Correct.
all the time.
Correct.
From the frigging lefties in the Parliament, you know. So there's quite a lot of them there. So just don't think it's happening in the universities. It's about standing up. I'm all for freedom of speech. Let people have their say, and the public will decide whether they want to listen to the rot or not. So, you know, I just good on them for sticking up for what they believe in.
Well, this is my thing, Gary, where in a taxpayer-funded institution, unless you are literally a listed terrorist organisation or any number of legitimately banned organisations, if you want to set up shop in the exchange of ideas, you should be allowed to do it. Now, that means there will be some absolute rabid lefties or absolute sort of religious line ball fanatics that I won't want to be there, but freedom means they can be there.
Yeah, and look, and this Generation Liberty is being coordinated by a remarkably intelligent, straight-talking woman called Renee Gorman, and so that's probably what they're more frightened of, mate. They don't like intelligent, straight-talking women coming into the zeitgeist because, let's face it, you've got to have women as victims. You can't have women as leaders. This is the sort of rubbish they want to go on with. But look, I spoke at a Generation Liberty event mid-December last year. I will confess there are about 40 quite remarkably everyday people that were there. And all I said to them was, you know what, you're allowed an opinion in Australia and never be afraid to ask a question. Take responsibility for your opinion, by the way, because you're not going to build any coalitions of support to your view if you're running around just dissing people, hell, west and crooked. But build a case, build a narrative, and don't be afraid to be wrong. That's my personal mantra, which is kind of helpful because often I am wrong. But if you're not afraid to be wrong, you won't be afraid to have an opinion and ask a question. But universities in Australia now do not want their students asking questions. They just want them sitting there and receiving the wisdom of whoever the socialist du jour happens to be in the lecture theatre.